Hello, welcome. This is a guide for a fireball machine gun. As you can see, it's just pretty fast. This is a build. You use Fireball, Meteor, Teleport together in a synergy. You use Flame Ward as a defensive, and you use Arcane Ascendance for like nuking down, or like when you can use it strategically. Arcane Ascendance is not a good spell. It is just that no other spell kind of fits into the build, and it does add a little bit, but it is not a key spell. So at least the other four are a must for this build. Okay, when you start leveling Fireball, you want to go up here, this pathway. You go 3 Winged Fire, you go Fire Spray, this would add more projectiles. You go Embers into Dancing Fire. This would let you shoot all the projectiles on a line and be able to hit the same target with Fireball. Without Embers, your Fireball can, for some reason, only hit the same target once. So you cannot really run this build, I think, without Embers, because you won't do any damage to any bosses or like anything that has any HP. After you go up this pathway, you want Pierce chance to be 100%, so your fireballs go through your enemies. It would add a lot of damage overall. Adding 4 here, and you go down the pathway. You want Seeker's Ash. You go 2 here, 3, and into Seeker's Ash. This will allow your fireballs to be like an aimbot, so you don't have to aim them that much anymore. You could maybe think that the build can do without it, but like the amount of fireballs you're gonna miss without it will decrease your damage a lot. So it's a key piece, a key node for this build. After that, you go Flame Burst. This one is absolutely beautiful and strong, and the higher you climb in Corruption, the more you're gonna like this one. It is scaling pretty good with 500% damage effectiveness added, and it procs for 3 fireballs, and it can proc on a single mob, so it does still increase damage on like bosses and rares. Super strong. This is the key for the build, the entire hair. And then you want to add for your gear, you want to add Pierce chance for Fireball, and you want to add plus to Fireball. Plus 4 to Fireball is obviously the best affix. This will allow you to increase your damage by a lot. It would allow you to add more to Winged Fire, Orbit Destruction, and Immolated Core. These 3 just adds tons of damage to your Fireball spell. You do not want to touch this side of the tree, nor do you want to go up here. I mean, unless you try another build or something. This is for single projectile. Down here, I think it's more for Ignite builds. We do not have an Ignite build here, so obviously ignore this. This one you don't touch. It's just for making it into a lightning spell. So the Fireball tree is very strong. That's all the nodes increase a lot of damage. I recommend all you see here. It's very strong. If you are critical capped with your gear for some reason, you obviously do not take this, and then you add more to Immolated Core. 1 to Immolated Core, and maybe 1 you could add to Adept, or even Mana Sphere. You want to avoid Mana Sphere if you can. You should not have mana promise with this build, so and it offers lower damage node. The entire build is based on Fireball as the main spell, Meteor as a buffing spell for Fireball, and Teleport adds the mana sustain for the build. Mana Tunnel. So the combo is you teleport, which is Mana Tunnel. You get a free spell, which allows you to free cast a meteor, which costs about 200 mana. The 200 mana get back about 100 from Aftermath. And the Craterborn and Cycle of Fire would allow you higher damage and more ward for your fireballs. So this is not a build where you use Meteor as a main damage source or damage source at all. Basically, you just want to keep throwing a meteor down about every 6 seconds. Next is teleport. Teleport you when you're leveling, you have a lot of free room to do a lot of different things here. You can go, if you want, you can go like mirror images or increase your damage total. This one is probably good anyway. But end the game, or when you're like starting to climb echoes or corruption, you kind of want the Mana Tunnel and Rock Phase. Mana Tunnel for the mana sustain and Rock Phase for the stun immunity. The Rock Phase combined with time dilation would allow you to be basically immune for 7 seconds, I think. About 7 seconds. After each teleport. The Crystalline Passage here adds armor, which also is pretty strong in endgame, because you can have a lot of strength on your gear, so this should be effectively 750 armor. As can be seen here. Adds a lot of armor. It is possible, even like endgame, to produce time dilation, but I found the times you forget to use Meteor, you could die a lot to getting stunned, so by testing higher, like more skill points in time dilation, it's easier to keep up your buffs on Rock Phase and this one. But you could probably go down to 2 here. You can find 2 more other places if you're really good at keeping uptime on your Rock Phase here by using teleport off cooldown all the time. Next one would be Flame Ward. When you're leveling Flame Ward, you probably don't want what I have here. This is the endgame version. When you're leveling, a thing like this one can seem much stronger because you have a lot less HP and a lot less ward when you level. So like, just this one seems pretty strong early. Dilation is strong always. This one is a must. So the strongest, I would say, when leveling would be like these 2. This one, you can even add like damage or fire aura. But in the end game, you want this to be more like a damage mitigation. You want to use Flame Ward to reduce damage taken, which it will. It will reduce a lot. Default has 30% damage reduction. With this, it has 70% damage reduction. And with armor here, which kills the damage, by the way, so you only want this for end game. When the damage from retaliatory burst of flames is doesn't really matter, but leveling, it actually does some damage. So end game, I have made it into a purely defensive spell, which will mitigate basically the most damage with barrier, a little bit of prismatic buffer, and frost guard with double dual Aegis, which adds 1 charge, so you can use it twice. It cooldown starts going when you use it the first time. It is very strong. Dual Aegis, it's probably strong when you're leveling as well. So But endgame, this one I would say is a must. This one is a must, and this one is a must. This pathway you could go. I'm experimenting. I like it. At around 1500 corruption. This adds a good survival because 1000 armor is multiplicative, so you get about 3000 armor with my bow. Flame Ward, very good spell, and it's a must for this build. And then you have Meteor. This is used in the build as a purely buffer. You're buffing your Fireball. So Fireball is basically your only damage on this build. You don't even need to aim your meteors, basically. But Creatorborn adds 75% fire penetration and some cast speed. It adds Cycle of Fire, which gains lets you gain ward per and mana per fireball you cast. And with Aftermath, giving you a mana sustain strategy. These three are key and is a must-have. Next to this one is strong. It adds fall speed and cast speed for it. And this should be blue, the mana cost for this build, because it's excellent. You want it to cost more mana, the spell, because you always cast it for free, so you get more mana, right, from Aftermath. So strong, and this one is strong. That adds another meteor and increases mana cost, so you even get more mana sustain. So these three key, these two strong. Besides that, I don't think it matters too much what you take. You don't use it for damage. If you want to increase meteors, or if you want to have like shrapnels on your meteor, that's fine. I like this mainly because it looks better. More meteors falling down, which the build would look like this. Teleport into a free meteor, giving you 100 mana, buffing your damage. Right, so you basically have infinite mana. And then the last filler. This is a filler spell, and you probably don't need this, but of all the things you can choose, I would say Arcane Ascendance is the better, worse possibility. Like it's bad, but it's better than all the others, I would say. And this one you just add damage with Higher Plane and Chronoclasm. This would slow your opponents, works on bosses, and it stacks with chill, so chill and slow works together. And it's decent. End game, you want these two for mana sustain. And it just decreases the mana usage when you're using it, allowing it to have you can have a higher uptime on bosses on it. And Cosmic Insight won't matter at all when leveling, I would say. But it's more better for when you're fighting bosses. So decent for boss fighting, and it works because often you you teleport meteor and then use it for 2 seconds maybe, and you see you want it up time. You want it up when the next teleport is, so you can do it again. Right, teleport into Arcane Ascendance, stop Arcane Ascendance, and then you have it uptime for next teleport. Because you cannot stand still for too long on a Sorcerer, because they have pretty bad passives for survivability. Okay, that's the skills. We can go with the passives. This is what I would say for endgame. When you're leveling, you probably want to take all the damage nodes. You're not gonna die that much. But when you're climbing corruption, more of the defensive nodes become much better. Reactor Ward and Sun and Storms and Silver Rune, these three becomes pretty decent. But you cannot use Reactor Ward if you have Leech affixes on your gear. It won't proc from your self damage. Right? Your self damage comes from the heart, which converts health when you cast a spell into ward. Let's see what happens now. Look at my ward. It procced. Reactive ward procced on my self damage. And it can do that every 6 seconds. And when you're like in an echo, this should proc a lot. So Arcanist into the end game though. Leveling, you go damage nodes, you go Sorcerer 54 in here, get these two, and probably something similar to what I have here. And you do take the damage nodes here as well. But end game, I would recommend reactive ward. So you go 8, 6, 5, and you like fill up this. I have to have one here. You need 20 to get there. I think it's in 20. Yeah. This one is underrated. It adds about 50 ward per second with this one in combat for fire. But I suspect, and I haven't tested it 100%, but it should work together with another lightning spell we have that should proc, and that is Distance Spark. I suspect it works with this. And every team that procs 2, I suspect you could get 50 ward. So making it possibly, I haven't tested it, but I think it does, possibly 100 ward per second. Up to 100 ward per second in combat. And 35% damage, so it's good, right? I don't see why people aren't running this. Seems strong to me. This is the strongest node in all the passives. 5 points here. I don't know any mage build that does not run this. And adds, it's a 5-point bonus, which adds a critical strike chance to your intelligence. So 100 intelligence, you get 300% critical strike chance. It adds so much damage for 5 points, it's insane. You obviously run this. You want Arcane Momentum for the extra cast speed with this one. The 6-point bonus is excellent. Movement speed at max stacks, which you should have like always when you're mapping or like running echoes. Or even the boss fights, like it should always be up. So very strong. And increased spell damage per stack too, super strong. Very strong. You do not want this. Like, except, you know, to get the Lava Master, but this one has low damage. You only want one here to get Lava Master, which gives a lot of damage. Fire penetration is strong, and fire damage leech is a must. So this is a must, I think, for the build. There's one you add if you don't have chill chance on your weapon or any other place. You could get away with having maybe one here, but I found through testing that 2 is decent. Chill chance is it reduces attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed of your opponents by 12% times 3, so it's strong. And it will mitigate damage just by them shooting you slower. You want at least 1 point in here for the insight chance. Insight grants 20% elemental damage and ward, and it will proc about always. I know it says 5%, but it's on hit and you hit tons of fireballs all the time. So you should have an uptime like 100% with just 1 point. So should at least have 1 point on this one. You want to go Crackling Precision for Distance Spark. This adds a lot of damage. Also you need 5 to get into Distance Spark. Arcane Obliteration, very strong. Adds a lot of damage. This one I'm just trying. It just adds shock chance on your attacks. And shock chance increases stun. So you can get 10 stacks, which gives 200% stun chance. So when you're nuking down rares and high health targets, it is valuable. But I'm just testing it. And Archmage is why you want at least 50 points in this tree. I would say you need 54 points in this tree to get Archmage and Recollection. cooldown recovery speed is excellent for your flame ward and your teleport. And flame ward, the higher corruption you get, the more you're gonna like that spell because it just saves your life all the time. Higher uptime on your flame ward is excellent. This one obviously does 15 spell damage for 5 points. It's incredible. For some reason, the developers didn't add, like, basically on none of these skill nodes, there are not there's not point bonuses. You see, almost none have point bonuses. I am not sure why they made Sorcerer tree so weak. If you can see Rune Master tree, you have probably point bonuses on everything. Look, 4. Everything has like point bonus. For some reason, a sorcerer did not get this on like anything. So it is much weaker tree than Rune Master, but we get what we get, right? At least we get Archmage, which is pretty strong. And Distance Spark is okay, strong, very strong, but probably not stronger than what Rune Master get. But let's not get into that. So 54 points to get these two, and then you put the rest in Rune Master. Unseal mana for the cast speed and mana. You don't do it for the 5-point bonus. It won't proc on this build. Arcane Focus is excellent. 32% word per cast, and you cast that very fast. And it also gives intelligence strong. This one also very strong. The 6-point bonus is basically 50% word retention. If you would go from 550 to 500% word retention, I think 36 word per second would be about the same. So the 6-point bonus is strong with the health, so I really recommend it. You go this one for the cast speed with a staff. This is a build with a staff, and cast speed is always welcome. And Rune Ward Cataclysm just adds some critical strike chance, and the 5-point bonus is also decent when the bosses and mobs fall under 35% health. This one will increase 15% damage, which is multiplicative, which is a lot. It's a lot of damage after 35%. So this is very, very good. Okay, and that's the passives. Go into the gear and blessings. We can do blessings first. I would recommend for in-game armor. Like 320 armor is better than 100% fire damage. Mainly because it's multiplicative, so you get maybe 3 times as much armor. So if it says like 1000 armor instead, you could see why I would probably choose it. I think after 1000 corruption defense, you should prioritize defenses over offenses. You die much faster. So I switched my blessings. I switched them to armor. I originally had increased fire damage. You want this one if you're running 2 red rings of Atlaria. It combos perfectly with those 2 rings. And critical strike multiplier is just very good. And the mana to get over 300 mana, which you need for these idols and for any affix that increases spell crit chance, which I have on this one. Okay, idols, you just fill this with resistance you need. You see, I should be capped on almost everything. This teleport bonus should be permanent in fights. When you're gearing up, you, as I mentioned, you want pierce chance with Fireball and +4 to Fireball if you can. After that, you want prioritize movement speed. It's excellent for leveling faster and mapping faster and like moving faster in boss fights. It's just excellent. If you can get these boots, maybe with movement speed affix, a tier 7 movement speed FX. It shouldn't be that expensive, I think. It will help a lot. So next would be heart. It is key to this build. You should get it at level 80. Very good. It's just everything on this is excellent. So you would, every time you cast Fireball, you would convert health into ward, and that health will be healed on the passive Lavamancer. Next, I would suspect you want rings with spell damage and intellect if you're not running red rings. Obviously, when you're leveling, you want to increase your resistances, especially for physical and void when you're going to echoes. That seems to be important. If you're running Titanheart, obviously you want a two-handed staff because you get 15% less damage taken while wielding a two-handed melee weapon. It works with a staff. That you do not regenerate health with this. It doesn't matter. You do not need health regeneration. And when you're gearing up, you want to avoid mana regeneration, stun avoidance, health regeneration. Let's see, am I missing anything? And if you can choose between dodge and armor, I would recommend armor, mainly because your late game gear should have a lot of strength on it. These 4 gives a lot of strength, which should add a lot of more armor, like multiplicatively increase your armor with strength. Why am I running an Immolator's Oblation instead of Strands of Souls? It is because it adds tons of damage. You see +6 spell damage for fire every time you use fire, basically. I mean, it's based on a probability, like 98% chance to get +6 spell damage for when you cast a fire spell. You see it here, that's my self-ignite. So I can have almost max 10. So when I'm mapping like echoes and stuff, I should have between 5 and 10 of these self-immolation stacks, which would increase my spell damage between 30 and 60. Yeah, spell damage, not in percentage. It's like this weapon increases 95 spell damage. 10 stacks of this increases it by 60 spell damage. Yeah, incredible damage increase. It will not show on your fireball damage per second, which even if you have the stacks up, which is unfortunate because the fireball DPS here is very wrong because it doesn't take into account like shred armor, this one. But besides that, the damage per second is pretty accurate, I think. I mean, I suppose it's against with no defenses, but the most mobs have resistances and armor and stuff. You could run this Strands of Souls. I ran it a long time and it's still pretty good. It will generate a lot of ward. But later when you're climbing corruption, I just think this is so much better. So I recommend this at least. Red Rings is surprisingly good. If you get over 180 stats, it gives 20% damage reduction, both of them. and basically 40% resistances to everything, and 10 to all stats, and movement speed. They are incredible, honestly. I did not run these rings until like 1200 corruption, and I was surprised when I put them on and like played how strong they are. It just adds so many defensive layers on everything. I recommend them to get them. And I might not need them early on, but they're strong, very strong. This staff is also fairly strong. It generates a lot of wards with the current mana gainless ward when you cast a fire spell. It's between 10 and 20% on the roll. So it's if you have 300 mana, which you should have, and you should have it up like current mana all the time when you're not fighting bosses. That's a bug. So this should generate between 30 and 60 per fireball, depending on what roll you have on it. It adds to flame ward, like ward on flame ward, which is a lot actually. The gives to the flame ward skill pretty good. The less damage taken, when at least 1000 wards strong, the intelligence strong, spell damage is decent. It decreases spell mana cost. This staff is pretty good. I recommend that with this build with Titanheart. Together they give 25% damage reduction. With the rings it gives 40% damage reduction. And it just adds a lot of effective HP. Prismatic Gaze, very strong for the critical strike chance. It's a base critical strike chance, so it's strong with the elemental damage reduction too. The Prism Shards it creates doesn't really matter in the end game at least. It doesn't do much damage, and they shred armor, shred resistances, which doesn't really matter either for this build. So it's mainly because of the critical strike chance. And the gloves, I love these gloves. The fire penetration on them, you can see on the bottom there, it gives a lot of damage. So, and the attunement doesn't do too much. 10 attunement gives 20 mana. It also helps with the stats for the rings. You need 180 stats. Attunement gives a little bit more stats there as well. But you mostly get your stats from the boots and the rings themselves. Maybe this one gives 16, but it does help a ton. You can see the increased fire damage on this ring. I missed. I was aiming for the plus 16 intelligence. So if you can you want red ring 1 LP with 16 intelligence, I would say, on both of them. And when you're running this blessing here, you cannot have critical avoidance blessing. And since you don't have critical avoidance blessings, you need reduced damage taken from critical strikes. This is important when you hit higher corruption. You're gonna have too high burst damage on you a lot of the time. If not, you should have run 2 affixes on it. They are pretty good affixes because they also give armor, and armor is also increased by basically 300% on this build. So they are not a waste. They're strong. I like them. Then we have covered skills, passives. They've covered basically the gear, blessings, and idols. So, what is the weakness of this build? You die very fast. It has very weak passive tree, like after hair basically, on defensive. Doesn't really give any defenses. But besides that, it does a lot of damage early on. It starts after 1000 corruption. The damage doesn't feel, it doesn't kill as fast. But you have one advantage on this build, and it's your range. You can kill. You can kill out of your picture. So even bosses and things you can kill. You see the range. See, it doesn't there. Yeah, about here. You see my life leech and hitting something. So a decent range. That's the strength of this build. Besides that, I think the build with my gear here probably won't go over 1700, maybe not over 1800 corruption. With this gear and build and everything I have, it does fairly well at 1500. I do not feel like I cannot climb higher. I just haven't done it because I don't know. It seems you get less and less loot the more you climb. I don't know why that is, but whenever I run like between 600 and 900 corruption, seems to get much more loot. So I don't enjoy climbing too much anymore after 1500. But that is maybe just me being unlucky. It could be. Probably. But when you run like 1500 echoes with a very strict filter, which is a money-making filter, it's like gold making, mainly just valuable items. I don't have a filter for the build. Sorry about that. I can maybe link the filter I'm using, and obviously link a planner. Well, that was it. I think I've covered most, and so enjoy the fire. If you want to try this build, it's fun. It's a fun build. Well, anyway, bye.